Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Motor Vehicle and Transportation Subcommittee. Appreciate you all being here. I am your chair, not your friendly chair, like our committee chair, Sarah Love. I'm happy to have my members here and several other folks who are here as folks to help us if we have any questions. And hang on one sec. There we go. You all got the agenda. We are going to go through HB 7, HB 20, HB 71, HB 123, HB 250, HB 262. You got from Patrick today 2 reprints. So those are when you get the bill with the amendments in them. It makes it easier for us to read them. You got them for HB 7 and also for HB 20. Okay, so let's go. We will start off with HB 7. Patrick, you want to take us through what you've done with the reprint, please?
Well, this is a reprint with Delegate Ruth's amendment in it.
Oh. Okay.
But I can take you through the amendments we've been discussing verbally.
Right. We have 3 amendments that we were discussing. Before we do that, let's actually just start with Delegate Guyton's question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question, I would love to have answered if we can before we start the discussion. So like most of us probably, I met with the governor's policy director for our committee, and we discussed House Bill 550. I'm assuming everyone else has as well. It seems like these are changes to the same article, the same area of the code as the bill that we're examining today. Some of them are the same. Some of them are very, very different. After talking to him, it looked like they were going or wanted to go in a different direction in a way to incentivize increase of infrastructure for EV vehicles. And I'm just not sure how these 2 bills fit together, or if they can be combined, or if there's even a reason to combine them. So that's my question.
All right, Landon, are you on here?
Yes.
Landon, does the governor's bill in any way contradict or repeat what Delegate David Fraser Hidalgo's bill does?
I believe one section of the governor's bill is quite similar to the bill as submitted by Delegate Fraser Hidalgo. There are some small differences, but I would say generally it is the same. The 2 differences are that I believe the governor's bill removes the annual cap, the dollar volume that MEA can give in rebates for EVSE each year, and then the governor's bill does not set a minimum dollar amount investment in the budget each year.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wondered if leadership, and I'm assuming you have had conversations about it's really more about the amendment than about the bill itself, incentivizing the private retail stations with the amendment, because that seemed to be something, and I don't want to speak for them, but I heard they would prefer to address this through their policy changes in their bill.
Certainly. So, as to are we speaking on the Ruth amendment?
Yes, as compared to the governor's plan to move forward.
Certainly. So I think certainly MEA would encourage the committee to reject the Ruth amendment, not because there isn't prudent policy points around those initiatives. The objections are somewhat twofold. One, we simply don't have budgeted and currently don't have a revenue stream to support larger incentives like this. It would most likely cannibalize the level 2 chargers that we have for commercially available, and also the residential partners. The second part of it is there's a NEVI program that's administered through U.S. Department of Transportation and then down through the State Department of Transportation. That's the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. That received a good sum of money when the two federal bills passed. MEA and MDE cooperated with MDOT on their filing to apply for those formula funds, created a plan for disbursement. In addition to that, there's a second, somewhat more flexible program that also comes down through DOE for charging infrastructure that received money through those federal bills. Coordinating those two primarily, and then if the state wanted to in the future complement them, is going to necessitate waiting really to see how those first two programs are going to be implemented, and then it would be appropriate to, if there was a revenue stream, a dedicated funding source to back those programs up. But the dollar amounts in the amendment are not as healthy, should we say, or generous as those in the NEVI program. And if we really want to move the needle, I think we need some program design changes in the interim to really move the needle on this. As far as incentivizing specifically retail service stations, currently, or I should say historically, in our existing EVSE program, retail service station applications are rare, and I mean exceedingly rare. Perhaps less than a dozen over the lifetime of that program. So we really haven't seen a desire from the retail service stations to utilize the program up to this point. I understand their hesitance is being excluded from the program, but they wouldn't be excluded. They would still be available under the scheme for corporate entities, right? So it's only a slight variation in the incentive amount. It's simply with as few applicants as we've had historically, it hasn't made administrative sense to continue operating this special category when we're not seeing participation from the private market.
Delegate Guyton, you're muted.
I appreciate that. My only last question is looking at these bills are so incredibly similar. I'm not exactly sure where this one offers things that are different from what the one that we all signed for the governor's bill does, but I do see that there are some differences in the second page between the governor's bill and this bill. So I just want to bring your attention to that. I did see some people had not had time to study 550. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we know when 550 will be heard?
Yes.
The second, Michelle?
I believe the House hearing is the 23rd and the Senate hearing is the 28th.
Okay, so those are next week. So it might make some sense. We can discuss this bill a little bit further if people have questions, but we'll hold off on any vote until we hear the governor's bill. Does anyone have any other questions about either? I know folks had some questions about the NRG amendment, and we've got John Fiastro on. Do people want to discuss that at this point? Delegate Healy is shaking her head.
Madam Chair, can I just mention the idea we were kicking around?
Yeah, please do.
John, if you'll listen, we were talking about doing a special section asking MEA, Maryland Energy Administration, to look at ways that they can streamline the application process for applying for these systems, these charging systems, and then as part of that streamlining, to look at the possibility of having a third-party facilitator be part of the streamlining. Would that satisfy you guys?
I think that I think the biggest concern here is that even on MEA's website, the funding announcement has an 8 to 10 week lag. So I think I guess it comes down to what the language would be defining streamlining.
Yep, that's fine. We'll run it by you.
I mean, we're glad, Patrick, I'm glad to come by and chat with you about what the intent is. Madam Chair, I do want to say thank you to all the members of the subcommittee who've taken time to meet with me on behalf of NRG this last week. I think I've managed to, one way or the other, speak to every member and still available for comments. What I would mention, though, Madam Chair, is that this committee will be hearing HB 550 next week, and I imagine you'll be seeing very similar testimony delivered by NRG expressing the same concern. So handling it now or handling it later is fine. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments or questions by committee members on HB 7? Okay, well, with that, Delegate Guyton, thank you for bringing that up. We will hold this bill pending the hearing on 550 and pick this up at the appropriate time. Okay, moving on to HB 20, the helmet bill. And I want to give Delegate Guyton a shout out because her question last week, and I use this to say to all of you, please ask questions. Please, please, please ask questions, because you have insights that I don't, and you think of things that I don't. And Delegate Guyton's question last week about when we were talking about on page 2, any other property open to the public, or, and whether we're going to change that to and, used by the public for pedestrian or vehicular traffic, she asked if that would carve out the lessons that are at stables. And that made me rethink some of this language, because we definitely want to make sure that children who are taking lessons at stables are covered. So with that, I have worked with the sponsor and some others and Patrick, and we have come up with some substitute language. So you will see in your reprint that we would strike number 3. So this paragraph would only, the helmet requirement would only apply to horse riding on a highway, a public horse riding path, or a facility for which the primary purpose is recreational, educational, or competitive equestrian activities. So what that does is it makes clear that if you're taking lessons at a barn, that is the primary purpose of the facility, then you must be wearing a helmet. But the fair, that's not the primary purpose, so you don't have to wear the helmet, as we were discussing last session or last meeting. I'm seeing some nods. I appreciate that. Questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, Delegate Morgan.
I like the idea of, I like the idea of the way it's worded. So when you do have the county fairs or something, you don't have to worry about the helmet. And I go back to my other issues. So good move.
Thank you. Delegate Ziegler.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, I also think that's a very good move. I actually think riding stables would appreciate having the long arm of the law, because I'm sure their insurance companies require it. And I bet there are parents who don't like it's probably helpful. I think I like it.
Thank you. And you're exactly right. We actually did hear that from some folks.
Yeah, I agree too.
Thank you, Delegate Healy. Okay, so the way the process works, if people are comfortable, we hear a motion on the amendment.
So
thank you. Is there a second for this amendment?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of this amendment, say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. On the bill as amended, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Excellent. Yay, team. We passed our second bill. Woo!
I don't know when we're going to send that to the floor, but
Yeah,
it's out of the subcommittee.
yep. All right, that's very exciting. Moving on to HB 71. You all remember this is the Speaker Pro Tem's bill on school bus drivers and medical examinations. Currently, they have a 1-year requirement that they have to have examinations. Other states have a 2-year requirement. There was some discussion about the problems getting school bus drivers, and this may be helpful. And so this bill would move it to a 2-year requirement. Patrick, anything to add to that?
I just want to make sure the subcommittee is clear that there is not flexibility for local counties to choose between 1 and 2. Current is 1. If this bill passes as it's written, it will be 2. And if it was changed to have that flexibility, MVA would not be able to implement it or enforce it.
Got it.
Any thoughts, questions, discussion?
Move favorable.
Second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We are just crushing it, team. Love it. Okay. Moving on to HB 123. You will recall this is the one to extend allowing plug-in electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles to drive in the HOV lanes. They were allowed to do it, then that sunsetted. This would extend this through 2025. That's actually one of the sponsor amendments because that coincides with the federal program. And there was another, well, let's see. There are 3 amendments. The second amendment is on page 2, line 6, to change the shall to a may. The administration, et cetera, may consult to design a permit instead of shall.
I think that's in recognition of the fact that the permit already exists.
Right, right. And then the third sponsor amendment offered was to allow vehicles that were bought in the state where the owner works in the state but lives outside to use the HOV lanes. And there was some testimony that that would incentivize people to buy plug-in vehicles in the state of Maryland. People who
And
work
may I
here
say
and use
something?
those lanes. Yes, please, Patrick, go ahead.
While we were in bill hearings, I've been working with MVA on this issue and I've got the answer from them. Legally, we know there's no problem, but operationally there is.
Okay.
When they title and register a vehicle, it creates an account and they connect the HOV sticker to the account. So the out-of-state vehicles don't have this account.
Oh. All right, then. That's important. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, April. April, did you want to add anything to that?
Nope, that's it. It would just, we were operationally, we would have to reach out to our programmers to see if that was even a possibility. Our operations division said that it doesn't look like it is, but we would have to reach out even further to see if that's even a possibility down the road.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, questions, comments, discussion on the bill and or the amendments? Yes, Delegate Morgan, I see you ready to raise your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm not real quick on this button game. So,
That's okay.
so right now, are all plug-in vehicles allowed to use HOV lanes?
No, they were allowed to, and that ended at the end of October 2022. So this is extending it through 2025.
So we're basically reinstating a rule that already exists.
That used to exist.
I apologize. Correct. I got you. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
And for the
So one of
record,
these
there
things-
are 2 HOV lanes in Maryland.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's hard to, it's, what's that? There's a management there you can't take away what you've already given.
Mhm.
I thought that Herzberg theory, got it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have, seeing no further discussion, let's go through, the amendments. On the first sponsor amendment, striking 2035 and making it 2025 to coincide with the federal program. I'm seeing some nods. Is there a motion on the table?
So moved.
Second.
Great, motion and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so this amendment passes. Amendment number 2, striking shall and substituting may. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. On the amendment, Patrick, do we need to vote this down?
No, you just have no motion if you,
Okay. On the amendment that would be a nightmare that MVA may not be able to implement. Is there a motion? Your silence means no.
going once.
Going twice, gone. All right, excellent.
Now, Madam Chair, can I mention one other amendment that was mentioned in testimony
Please.
that we might be better sending to EVIC and MVA to look at over the interim?
Mhm.
It was from Scott Wilson, who was talking about vehicle stickers being put on vehicles that are not EVs,
Right.
and not quite sure how we address that in this bill, but it's worth looking into, I would think.
I think that's a very good point. Yes. Can we send that to them?
Yeah, we'll take care of that after the session.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so the bill as amended, just a flag for folks, this was filed as an emergency bill, which means if it passes both chambers and is signed by the governor, it would go into effect immediately. Okay, so bill as amended. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? Fantastic. Bill passes. You are the most efficient committee. I love it. Okay, so moving to House Bill 250. This is Delegate Griffith relating to disabled veteran registration plates and extending it to veterans who are designated as at least 50% service-connected disabled. Patrick, do you want to say anything about that?
All I want to make sure the subcommittee knows is that this will almost certainly, I've been talking to MVA about this April, almost certainly involve extending the right to get a disability plate to new people, to additional people. The testimony said there were 41,000 people that would be eligible for this. Many of them probably already are eligible for disability, may already have disability plates. So we don't really know what that number is. We don't think there's any problem with federal law. But just so you know, if in case anyone asks you on the floor, will this result in more people being eligible for disabled plates? The answer is almost certainly yes.
Well, there's 18,841 disabled plates out there. I went and did my homework.
Nice.
This is an interesting one for me. There's 66,074 ag plates. There's 357,262 bay plates. And there's 81,627 other plates out there. Now, I look at this from an environmental transportation point of view, and I'll be a little, prejudiced. I was on the Bay Trust for 5 years, and they raised a tremendous amount of money for their own organization, which then they get the money and the money goes back out again to do teaching programs. Ag thing the same way. So I think I hate to think, you're not gonna, the disabled veteran thing, you're not gonna have a whole lot of fight on that one, because, you know, veterans are veterans, and the governor's making it a big point to take care of veterans in his bills. I just get worried that as you expand the number of plates you put out there,
Good evening.
you water down eventually the number of people who want ag plates or bay plates,
Thank
which
you.
truly are being used for the betterment of the environment in our state.
Yeah, if I could, Madam Chair.
Yes, please go ahead.
I agree that this is likely to cannibalize the existing programs. There's only so many people that are going to spend $20 more to get their plate. And the money is already designated for certain purposes.
Well,
So
I should emphasize that this is not a specialty plate.
it
This
is
is a
not.
disability plate.
Okay, so this is not like the Bay plate or
Right,
the ag plate.
right.
Okay,
This is a
This is-
disabled plate.
this is just a regular, but it's not a handicap plate. It's
It's a handicap plate. And if you're a disabled veteran, you can get a handicap plate that says disabled veteran on it. That's all this is.
So could you get like
okay.
that designation on a bay plate?
I don't believe so. I've never seen that.
Okay, so it is a separate plate though.
But it's a disabled plate. It allows you to park in disabled spaces. Things like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you all have to qualify the same way you do if you're not a veteran, right? I mean, it isn't just your VA rating. It would have to be like that you actually have a disability that's recognized.
Well, that's one thing that is new in this bill, is that your VA rating could be an additional qualification.
Okay, so it would increase the number of people that would qualify based on something that we don't have any control over. However, the VA designates those things.
Correct. The expectation in discussions with MVA and the like is that most of the people between 50 and 99 probably qualify for the disabled plate anyway.
Okay,
But there will be new ones.
gotcha.
Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this question came up in the hearing. I think that Delegate Healy actually asked the sponsor if this was related to the handicapped parking spots, and he indicated that it was not. So that was my understanding, was that it was disconnected. Basically, you kind of got like a bit of a vanity sort of disabled veteran status on your plate, but there wasn't really any real life effect, or you weren't entitled to any special privileges. But I guess that's incorrect. So you can park in handicap spots.
With this plate, correct.
Interesting.
In fact, if you look at where it's drafted under the disability plate section.
Okay. And do we have any indication of like what the 51% disabled status, how that relates to the current definition of a non-veteran disability to become eligible for the handicap status? Does that make sense?
It's a good question, but the problem is that they're apples and oranges. That's why we say we think that we will be adding people eligible for these plates. We just don't know how many.
Because I mean, just in layman's terms, I mean, I can imagine if someone's 85 or 90% disabled, they're probably going to be eligible for a handicap plate, certainly 99%, right? And I'm not necessarily opposed to saying that veterans should get a little bit of an easier pathway to getting a handicap plate necessarily. But if 51% is significantly more lax than the current standard, then that might be a little problematic.
Madam Chair, can I clear up one issue there?
Sure, Delegate Guyton, go ahead.
Yeah, so the difference between this plate and a disabled plate, a handicap plate, is that it's not supposed to necessarily offer any special treatment. What it is designed to do is bring, for people who choose to do it, and I do think those numbers are actually going to be quite low because of what I'm about to tell you. For people who choose to do it, it acts as a marker to law enforcement if they are pulled over that they are a disabled vet, and disabled vets, particularly at 50%, I mean, that's a fairly intense disability, but it could be an unseen disability. So it could be someone with PTSD that might really be triggered by seeing someone, an officer come with a firearm. that is my understanding for the rationale behind this bill. It's not just about giving them a parking space. It's about alerting the people around them or law enforcement that might be interacting with them that there is a person in this car who might need handled with care, right? It's the same thing that we try to do in some other situations with folks with autism and other unseen disabilities. So I just want to make sure that that's kind of on the table.
Thank you, Delegate Guyton. Delegate Ziegler?
Is it free?
No.
Okay.
Delegate Guyton, your hand is still up. Did you have another question? No? Okay. Delegate Stewart?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So to Delegate Guyton's point, that was my understanding of the bill too, this idea that the law enforcement would be alerted. And I think that's awesome. I think that's a really important part of the bill. This whole issue of the handicap spot just sort of took me by surprise. And this is just my own ignorance. But I guess to Patrick, if you have an unseen disability, like some sort of, either mental health issue or whatever, are you currently eligible for handicapped tags and therefore parking spots?
Oh, certainly. A lot of heart conditions and the like. A lot of times you see people with handicap tags walk out and they look normal,
Well, I guess, I guess unseen. I guess unseen is not really the right term. I guess what I'm saying is mental health issues. Are you eligible to be able to park closer to the store, for example?
I don't remember. I'd have to look it up and double check that for you. I don't remember any mental health issues being part of that, but I could be wrong.
Got it. And I'm not necessarily opposed to that either. It would be good to know whether or not we're for the first time allowing someone with a mental health challenge to park in a handicap spot, but only if they're a veteran and not if they are a veteran. I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but it would just be helpful to know if that's actually the policy change that we're making here.
Delegate Jacobs?
Patrick, could you explain the revenue portion, how this fits in with on the revenue side so everybody understands?
Yes.
Like what the tag costs, and I see where some of it goes to surcharge, goes to the Institute for Emergency Medical Services, et cetera.
Oh, that's a surcharge. That's the trauma center surcharge.
Yeah.
If you look at the end of the bill, there is 13,903. It's included in the bill. Let me step back and go to the beginning. This bill does not change the registration fees for these 50 to 99 people.
Right.
They are still going to have to pay their registration fees.
Right.
Now, under 13,903, which is not necessarily apples to apples with the handicap plate, but it's probably pretty close. These vehicles are exempt from the registration fees, and there's a long list. Number 8 is vehicle owned or leased by personally used by a veteran who designated by the Veterans Administration has lost the use of a hand, arm, or leg, or is totally disabled, or has permanent impairment of both eyes so that central vision acuity is 2200 or less in the better eye with corrective glasses, and there's a field defect in which the peripheral field has contracted to such an extent that the widest diameter of visual field subtends I don't even know what this means, but an angular distance no greater than 20 degrees in the better eye. So these people get their registration fees. These are all veterans, and they get their registration fees are exempted. And it's gotten actually really doesn't have anything to do with 100% disabled.
All right, thank you.
Delegate Stewart, do you mind if I jump over you for folks that have not already asked questions?
Sorry, that was just my hand residually up. I don't have another question.
Okay, great. Delegate Healy.
Thank you again. I wanted to ask April from MVA to weigh in on some of the technical side of what we've been talking about, whether this bill applies, how MVA would look at this. MVA issues these tags, correct?
Correct.
So is this, again, going to be like including all the privileges of having a handicap tag where being able to park in certain places? Or is this as we also discussed, instead to be a signal so that to handle with care, as we talked about, for someone who has disabilities such as PTSD.
It would serve as both. So it would have the handicap symbol on it, but as well, it would serve as an alert because it says disabled veteran. So it serves both.
It would do both things.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to understand clearly. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Delegate Davis?
Thank you. I have a concern about the percentage. Do we know where that came from? Is there any logical reason why it's at 50? And is there any appetite for 75?
The sponsor did note that in his testimony. And I'm looking at it now. He says lowering the threshold to 50% and not another specific percentage point is intentional and important. Let me explain. And whether their disabilities range from physical impairments to internal struggles and challenges related to the unseen, like post-traumatic PTSD, a disabled veteran can suffer from any number of military service-related injuries. Having the we talked about having the date designated plate affixed will allow them to operate a safe and more understanding environment. The mid-level threshold for PTSD within a veteran is 50%, meaning that at this level, veterans can experience pronounced problems at work and in everyday life. These problems can range from significant reduction in productivity to a risk of frequent panic attacks and difficulty following simple instructions.
Okay.
There's more, but I think you're getting the idea.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Please go right ahead.
Another question is there a way to allow the tags, the license plates, without allowing them the special parking in disabled spots? Because they can still get that if they go through the process that everyone else has to go through. They can still get that. You know, if you look around, there are not that many disabled parking spots. And the idea of adding a lot more that haven't gone through a physician is a little bit of a concern.
Good question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't want to butt in, but I can check if that's even a possibility, and I can get back to you, Delegate Davis.
Delegate Davis, any other questions? Okay, great. Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This time I actually did raise my hand again. So, you know, I think my feelings are sort of aligned with Delegate Davis's, and I think, you know, my view would be if someone is 85% disabled, for example, or 75 or 65, and they're already eligible for a handicapped license plate, for example, then I have no problem whatsoever allowing them to eligibility to have disabled veteran on their license plate instead of making them be 100%, because then I think you get that police law enforcement notice that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten. And I think certainly with their service and the sacrifice they've made for the country, they are more than qualified to, you know, have that pride, to whatever extent there's pride associated with having that on their plate. What gives me a little bit pause, though, is that if it is the case that you have to have a physical disability to be eligible to park closer to stores and the like, if that has always been Maryland law, then I am a little bit apprehensive about the idea of, for the first time ever, making an exemption to that policy and opening it up to people who may be totally able-bodied and better physical shape than I am, but who do have mental health challenges. And that's not to diminish mental health challenges in any way. Those are very real disabilities, just as real, if not more real than physical disabilities. But if that is the first time we're doing that, and otherwise the handicap plates were only for people with physical disabilities, and we would be making that change, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I would just like to know if that's what we're doing.
Delegate Stewart, for the record, I did look up the disabilities that make you eligible for these plates, and I do not see any mental disabilities. It's all physical. April, you can correct me if you know I'm wrong.
I think you're correct, but I can double check that as well.
That's a very important point. Thank you for raising that. Okay, so I'm hearing a number of concerns. There are also a couple of things that April is going to look at. What is the will of the committee? Do we want to wait for April's questions? Yes, Chair Healy.
I was just gonna say yes. I would want to wait and hold this until we get the answers from April about the questions that have been raised.
Okay, then we will do that.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just checked with my team on the first question from Delegate Davis. As it stands right now, there's no way to give a disability veteran plate without having the benefit to be able to park closer. If you'd like me to deep dive into if that's possible in the future, I can absolutely do so, but just to let you all know.
Thank you. Delegate Guyton?
Yeah, I just spoke to, or I just texted the, I hope it's okay to text the sponsor of the bill and ask him to clarify what he intended here. And he said they are not supposed to receive a disabled tag for parking. They are just supposed to receive disabled veterans on the tag, the same way we have legislators tags or other types of tags.
Don't get into legislator tags.
Oh, well, okay. I don't have one, but yes, so that is what he told me was the
terrapin tags.
I can send you all a picture of what the disabled veterans plate looks like, and you can see that it's the symbol used on the parking spots and on other disabled plates.
So let's back it up. So if the sponsor's intent is to not have the access to the disabled spaces, Patrick, is that how the bill is written? Or would it allow them that access? Or
I think it would allow them that access.
Okay, then perhaps we need to see what we can do to, but April, you said there's no way to do it with just having the tag, but not the access. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But
yes.
Again, let me check to make sure that there's no way to create that, but as it stands now.
Okay. Delegate Healy.
Yeah, I would like to suggest that if we do wait, that we kind of follow along what Delegate Stewart was saying, which is to say that anybody who otherwise has a handicap tag, or with the symbol on it, could get the additional disabled veterans designation on that handicap tag.
Well, they would be eligible for that now.
They are.
Yeah.
So that they can already get a tag that has both symbols on it. The fact that they're the handicap symbol plus a designation as a disabled veteran.
Right. If they qualify for both, yes. In fact, we were saying earlier that there's probably in the 50 to 99 range, there's probably a lot of disabled veterans that already have normal handicap tags.
Correct. And so, but they would be able to say on their tag that they're disabled veterans.
They can do that now.
Already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Delegate Ziegler.
Couldn't we redesign the tag so that it doesn't have the handicap thing, but it does say disabled veterans and would alert police officers to possible PTSD and have the pride factor but not the parking?
Now you're talking a big fiscal note.
Oh, I am. Is that a big deal? Okay, never mind.
Possibly.
I'll put my hand down. Sorry.
That's okay. Nope, always good to raise these things. Absolutely, always good to raise these things. Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry for another bite here, but no, I think those are
plenty of
the two
apples.
Solutions. Okay, yeah, well, those are the two solutions, right? You either redesign the play or you only allow it if they already are eligible for the handicap to begin with. But Patrick, just to clarify, my view of the bill was it lowered the threshold so that right now, the only people who can get a handicap plus a disabled veteran status are people that are 100% disabled. I thought the whole point of the bill was we were moving that down from 100 to 51 to 99, right?
Yes.
So under the bill, if I was 53% disabled, I might be eligible for a handicap tag under that different avenue, right? Because my doctor said that I was handicapped, but since I was not 100% disabled, I was only 53% disabled under the VA's definition, then I could not also get the disabled veteran tag. Is that right, Patrick?
Not quite.
Okay.
One of the problems here is that the disabled veteran tag does not exist in statute. It's purely a creature of the MVA. So the bill says that, okay, you can get a disabled veteran tag above 50%. And I believe, and there's the problem here is that some of the MVA website is wrong, but I believe that if you, well, it was the section I cited to you at the end of the code. That's how you can determine if somebody qualifies for a disabled veteran tag, or in a free registration, excuse me. But the 50 to 99 was not supposed to get the free registration, which it does not in the bill. And I apologize if that's confusing. I'll try it again if you want.
Okay, I think I get it. I think I get that. But yeah, if it is true, I don't know. I'm like 53% of the way there understanding it, I think. But if I guess what I'm saying is if there is a way to make it easier for veterans who are not 100% disabled to get this on their tag and they are already have or are eligible for handicap tags, that's awesome. And it sounds like that would be a win as far as the sponsor is concerned.
Well, they can already do that.
Okay. All right.
That's currently.
Okay.
Maybe try it another way. If you are now a disabled veteran, whatever the number is, and you qualify under the current code for a handicap tag, you can get the handicap disabled veteran tag. But right now, there is only the handicap disabled veteran tag.
Huh?
You had us, and then all of a sudden I saw people go, "Wait, what?"
There is not a non-handicap disabled veteran.
Right. And I think this is what this bill was trying to create.
Which we cannot create.
For those that are 50% disabled but might have mental issues that police need to know about. All right.
All right. So I think we have where we are. Okay. I will talk to the sponsor and let him know this discussion and have him decide how he wants to proceed. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So any other thoughts, comments, questions on that bill? Okay. The last bill on our agenda is HB 262. This was the electronic notification for abandoned vehicles. Patrick, you want to do a little synopsis for the committee?
Yeah, this is for police initiated tows, as opposed to last year's bill, which dealt with towing from parking lots. They are, of course, required when police initiated tow. The police or the tower is required to send notice to the last known owner and secured parties. And this allows electronic notice to secured parties if the former notice is agreed to by the police department, the tower, and the secured party. And then at the end, it provides that there's a provisions for abandoned vehicles that aren't recovered, and the application of those provisions. And it adds that if the electronic notice to the secured party under this thing is not acknowledged or is returned as undeliverable. That would be a place when provisions related to abandoned vehicles start to kick in. So basically, it's just incorporating electronic notice to secured parties into the towing, police-initiated towing of vehicles.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Delegate Healy.
Okay, yes, quick question about this undeliverable. Is that electronic undeliverable or like sometimes
Electronic.
Not the post office?
Electronic, exactly.
Okay, because sometimes the post office gets that wrong too. I once sent an invitation to the governor at the state house, and it came back that there was no such address. So, yes,
We are not actually here, just so you know, because there's no such
there is
address.
no such place, right?
Right. Delegate Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this specifically for secured owners? What about unsecured parties?
What would an unsecured party be?
Unsecured vehicles. My vehicle that I don't owe any money on. So
Well, then there's no secured party. There's nobody to provide notice to.
So it's only for secured.
Correct, because they're the only ones with an interest in what happens when they dispose of the vehicle.
They're about to dispose of the vehicle, so they still have to notify me by mail.
If you're the owner or the secured party, yeah. Well, the owner is not part of this. Only the secured party.
Can you
The
describe
owner
that?
has to be
Can you
notified by
explain that?
mail.
What happens? Oh, because it's an abandoned vehicle.
Right.
Okay. Delegate Davis, you look quizzical.
Madam Chair, this is Andrea Mansfield. Would it help if we tried to provide some clarification in the process?
Sure, that would be helpful.
Okay, good. Yeah, Delegate Davis, as the owner of the vehicle, the other notification requirements would still remain in effect. So the tower, the police department, who in most cases has the tower, gives the tower the authority to make this notification. So as the owner of the vehicle, you would still get your letter by certified mail, return receipt mail, as well as regular mail. The electronic notification would only apply to the secured party because they have a mechanism of contacting them electronically. The towing company would not have the same ability to contact you as the owner of the vehicle electronically. That would still be the regular mailing process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Yes, Delegate Healy.
Yeah, I have another question again about the electronic notice is not acknowledged, is returned as undeliverable. That often happens if there's a mistake in the typing of it. Like you have one letter off or one word off, not word, but one letter, one character off, and it doesn't go through. So it's not anybody's fault. I mean, it's the fault of whoever's entering the information to send the notice.
Well, I think in this case, they would have a system, the electronic notice system set up, and they pretty much just be pressing a button. Andrea, does that sound right?
Yes, I believe that is correct. And I know Mr. Parrish is on here as well, and he actually does this notification electronically and can probably speak more specific to the process he follows. But that would be my understanding, yes, that they would have, through their communication with the secured party, they would have the email addresses and so forth to be able to make that notification. They would know that.
Thank you.
Do members have any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move favorable.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, the bill passes. And that completes our agenda. Thank you all very much. To our members, you're wonderful. To our guests, appreciate your insight. And to Patrick, as always, many thank yous. Everyone have a great week and we'll see you